This is Counter Narrative News, bringing you daily news today on Thursday, the 2nd of February 2023. Going to Australia, the Foreign Affairs Minister Penny Wong has cautioned against escalating US-China tensions in the region, expressing some nervousness and anxiety going forward around the intensifying antagonisms between US and China. It's clear that Australia is in a precarious situation itself, as it is embedded in the region directly, where if there was an outbreak of war, Australia would be directly impacted. Penny Wong herself is of part Chinese Malaysian heritage, and she reflected upon European colonialism's treatment of people in the Eastern and Southeast Asian regions. She's sharing these opinions to try and develop a political atmosphere of dialogue and understanding between East and West as it pertains to the tensions growing between the US and China. And also she's trying to position Australia in a more positive place in this complex relationship between those allied to the US in the region and those allied to China. Broadly looking at the situation, it's quite dysfunctional because at the end of the day, modern capitalism across the globe seeks total domination on all fields, including culture, economics, politics, and very much so in the military as well. So in that context, a war between the West and the biggest counterpoles to Western domination, albeit still promoting the same global capitalist model, particularly Russia and China, is inevitable. Going to Romania, Andrew Tate and his brother Tristan have seen their appeal against the extension of their detention in a Romanian jail being refused by the Romanian authorities. On the 29th of December, towards the end of last year, Andrew and Tristan Tate were arrested for rape, abduction and people trafficking charges. On the 30th, they were detained for a month. On the 10th of January, their appeal against the detention was refused. And on 20th of January, their detention was extended by the Romanian authorities, and their appeal against that detention has also been refused. Andrew Tate boasted openly about the reasons why he wanted to live in Romania many years ago. He said it was a country whereby he could develop his scam businesses with relative more freedom than he could in other Western European places, and that if he was ever arrested by the Romanian authorities, he very arrogantly stated publicly and openly that he would just have to bribe the Romanian authorities, and he claimed he would live in luxury in jail. Well, clearly that's not the case. Clearly he's finding it a very unpleasant experience. Andrew Tate represents a very toxic, new far-right popular culture that is impacting a lot of young men and boys and causing a lot of confusion and disturbance and trauma, frankly, around relationships if men and boys are going to internalize the toxic masculinity in Andrew Tate's open self-expression, in internalizing Andrew Tate's toxic masculinity. What's being spread all across social media very widely are quite wacky far-right conspiracy theories around claiming the reasons for Andrew and Tristan Tate's arrest. The promotion of far-right conspiracies is a very popular grift across the world. Social media has for decades been promoting this type of political cultural community, and it continues today, indicating great dangers going forward for the collapse of radical left frameworks not being advocated and spread around young people, and instead this toxic right-wing politics and culture continues unabated. Coming to Britain, Labour MP for Liverpool Riverside, Kim Johnson, apologises for calling Israel a quote-unquote fascist country in a debate in the Houses of Parliament and the House of Commons. Labour leader Keir Starmer has obliged Kim Johnson to apologize for calling Israel fascist, and instead Kim Johnson argued that she was wrong to do that, as it connects some Jewish people as somehow being a greater fascist than the Nazis were, and instead she called the new Israeli government a far-right nationalist government, which seems to be acceptable by the current Labour leadership. This whole debacle goes back to the 4 years or so that Jeremy Corbyn led the Labour Party, and it also relates to the quite messy situation of some circles of Palestine solidarity, in which was also reflected in Jeremy Corbyn's leadership of the Labour Party, are not totally clear in their leadership to bat away any kind of far-right infiltration of activists. For example, the leader of the National Front in Britain is a regular attendee at Palestine Solidarity protest in London, and also far-right frameworks that suggest somehow that the current Israeli state is the real quote-unquote Nazis, or a quote-unquote greater Nazis than the original Hitlerite Nazis were, which is a far-right trope. For Jeremy Corbyn's part, under pressure from the interests of the State of Israel and their alliances within Britain, he, like many of his positions while Labour leader, backed away and arguably sold out in positions in support of the Palestinians, and ended up calling Israel a democratic society to which he sees as quite positive and admirable. Finally, on this day, that 2nd of February in 1932, over 1,000 people at the grassroots in the working class community of Bronx, New York City at that time, resisted the eviction of 3 families from their residences. The resistance was successful. They successfully resisted and fought back police and local authorities, and their victory resulted in 77,000 evicted families returning to their homes from which they were evicted. Many thanks for those who have subscribed to our YouTube channel. Please do encourage others to engage in our work and our reports and our daily news and analysis. Many thanks for listening to Counter Narrative News.